on YouTube and Instagram. Waiting for them to engage. Well, look at that. YouTube just engaged.
We're locked and loaded.
Almost. Waiting for the Instagram, Insta scam. All right.
All right.
We're a fully functional battle star now.
Okay. Folks, after technological difficulties, we're back. So welcome to another exciting issue of Making Turbo Pit Fighter. This is a podcast where I'm penciling and Kurt is inking, and we talk at the same time, try to concentrate on two things at once. But we meet every Sunday. It's been more than 2 years now. We are live on YouTube every Sunday, and we also multi-stream on Instagram. But if you're on Instagram, you can only see a portion of the screen. So YouTube is the place where you can see the wide screen. Kurt and I were just talking about a recurring topic, but you know what? Let's come back to that later. I want to talk about our Substack, where you released the first of two interview segments with Jan Stranad, the famous writer from Marvel, DC, everything, like Nintendo, right? He's written for every freaking property.
Richard Corbin, Fanagore.
Yeah, like, Marvel and DC characters, the Atom, but also like stuff like, I'm not saying like Dora the Explorer, but like really mainstream gigs, because the guy's a pro. So I was carefully rereading the installment, which is live right now on our Do Megs Substack. And if people, I've never met a guy that's so nice in email before, right? He just took all the time to answer all the questions, and he was so forthcoming, and it was like exactly what we wanted to know,
Yeah.
And we asked about his relationship, his working relationship with Gil Kane. He was like, "Oh, I type up, and put in U.S. mail letter, like a script that goes to him, and we do it the Marvel method, He sends back the Xeroxes of the pages, and all he's got to do is like put the dialogue in where it goes, and he would neatly type that up with numbers." So it was like just what we wanted to find out about, right? Imagine imagine you're sending just straight to Gil Kane, and then I don't know when the Marvel editor takes a look at it, but he complained that they were stepping on his stuff all the time, right?
Yeah, well, they were changing it to make it sound hipper for the kids.
Oh,
The person who was editing, I can't remember who the editor was. You're gonna have to read the article. Is not, wasn't a kid. You know what I mean? So it's like that was always such a funny fucking shit. You would hear people saying, oh, you got to make this hip for the kids, and then some 68-year-old like Martin Goodman said, kids don't like that. They like,
right. Well, Martin Goodman,
and it's like.
So Curtis talking about Martin Goodman, the owner of Marvel Comics during the meteoritic rise, where they changed the whole equation of making comics. But Martin Goodman was an old guy in a suit, and really so was Stan Lee at that point, and Jack Kirby. All the guys that got it off the ground had a lot of experience doing like much more schlockier work for decades. Like Stan Lee started when he was 17, and then Fantastic Four #1 comes out when he's 49 in 1962. So these are some old freaking codger boomer fuckers, man. But Stan Lee, Stan and Jack, they were just really being themselves. I mean, when they said that, when Martin Goodman said that, we got to get hit with the jive, all he was doing was staring at sales sheets. I was going to say spreadsheets, but he was just, looking at sales figures, which he had like pretty much every week, every day, and because he was flooding the zone with so many men's magazines and digest size things and Marvel Comics was supposed to be just another one of these schlacky businesses until they had a hit on their hands with Marvel Comics. And Marvin Goodman was such a cheap smack that he sold Marvel when it got to a market valuation of about $3 million. In 1968 or nine, yeah, I think 68 or nine. So when they're talking about being hip, like I can tell you as a middle school teacher, I do it all the time because I was a street kid too, and I used to say cool words like deaf. I used to say, "Yo, that's deaf." so as a teacher, I do it all the time, and I've seen these really stern letters from kids to grown-ups. Please don't try to be cool. Please just stop. Yes, right. The problem with me is I don't, because I'm still living the dream. I have 24-year-old kids here. My other daughter is 22. So they're whatever they're saying, in the suburbs about slang, I can say it. If they can say it, I can say it because it's not cultural appropriation. I'm the one in the Bronx every day, with these kids. I mean, I only try to get the older ones to just tell me who's the coolest underground rapper right now, because sometimes it's somebody local, and I've seen cool stuff that doesn't even make it, commercially. But anyway, as far as being cool, there is some generational, value differences, and I just feel so bad for the generations that are just living a life of subscriptions to apps. And like my daughter just thinks, oh, it's normal. You pay Spotify $20 a month or $25 a month, whatever. Yeah. Now she gets a student discount, but that ends next year because she's not going to be a student anymore. And welcome to the real world. Now you're willing to pay $25 a month for it. She was paying like 10 for it. And it plays like literally any song you ask for, YouTube or whatever, but it's Spotify, because they get paid every time the needle drops, in anybody's house, in anybody's, stream. So it's pretty amazing how they have the technology worked out. They're getting micro pennies every second, right? Like, I have a musician buddy. He lives down the shore, and he's jamming with this guy that used to play with Bowie and Lou Reed, right? And they're just jamming. They're just jamming in the basement, and he's telling me like I got to go sit in with them. I can't wait to. His name is Chuck Hammer, and I said, he worked on songwriting, and he worked on an album, he worked on tours, and he's definitely got some names he can drop, and he's a great guitarist. But how much money does he make just sitting there, having been a part of this? And the answer is, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to say, but my buddy told me, like, the guy makes a very decent living, and something like that. They're just trying to like put their legacy out, and so he's like doing remixes of all kinds of like studio stuff. At least that's the story, the way I remember it. It's secondhand from my old guitar player. But these guys, that have a name. I mean, they're even the big guys, they're selling their catalogs and they're cashing out. While you can still get tens of millions of dollars. And I hate to say it, but there might be a day when somebody like Bob Dylan goes down the memory hole. It might be 100 years, it might be 200 years, or if the stuff is just managed correctly, it could go on forever, just like it has been. I mean, some great artistry like that transcends generations, right? Everybody's still doing Bob Dylan covers today, like everybody, all age. So, I don't know. It's it's a very interesting conversation about the gateways to money and these young kids. I see a lot of tech stuff in education that's just so god awful. It was like 10 years ago when they brought some AI into the classroom that was supposedly going to grade kids' paper, that like essays. And I was like, I can't wait to get to look at this because I can't wait to see how bad it is. And that was I was basically in like some test panel professional development stuff where they're rolling the stuff out and they want to see if the teachers are on board, right? Because if you can get a teacher that's on board with this, you know that's all you want. They want to get some like accolades and some reviews. Oh, a real teacher in a real classroom said this is A+. Yeah, and so it was not ready for prime time. They wouldn't even let us see it in the end because there was like confidentiality stuff in there, and they're data mining kids, right? They're using that for their models. They're not paying kids. We're using your classroom assignment to run data models so that our AI can learn how kids think on a daily basis. And that is such valuable information that the kids aren't being compensated for, nor the schools, nor anything. So, I say resist as long as you can. And if you're
It's
a
all
parent,
about. I mean, when it gets down to it, it's all about profit. You're not going to get, And I think one of the really wild things, in an optimistic way of looking at it, is we are in a state of transition, and people now have access to more information than they ever have in the history of being a human chimp
yeah,
wandering around on the
right,
face of the earth. Now, it's I think really getting down to, quit your bitching and do something about it because you can. But I think that's also what the large industries are worried about, because we were talking in our boo boo episode back there 15 minutes ago.
aborted
It's
episode.
about the processors. It's about the actual computation. Now, the thing is, you also dropped the needle on quantum computers. Now,
Yeah,
quantum computers, the biggest number 1 through 100 issues with quantum computers are the processors. You're not
well,
going to ever, if you're listening to this and you're just a schmo like Jake and I, you are never going to get access to quantum computers unless you go somewhere and work with somebody in some company with quantum computers. The reason they publicize all of this, oh, we can do this now, we can do that now, and you're like, wow, you can fly upside down, you can go back in time, is it has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with the investors, because they don't want these investors pulling out, and they want these investors to keep their money in so they can keep playing around it and putting this all together. Point, though, is we are going to have a fallout that is going to be like a window to opportunity. This is why I'm so immersed in technology, especially with the AI functionality in how it can coincide with a creative person. Not make art. It's never gonna make art. That's even a conversation I want to have with anybody walking around the face of the earth.
well, to the
The
extent that
biggest thing
art
is,
can be
how
random.
can you maximize who you are as an individual in a creative output and a like a participation kind of thing. I think the biggest thing people are locked into right now is this anxiety of where they're supposed to participate and how, from young people to old. And we're in this
And
unfortunate
the answer,
stalemate.
folks, is in person. but
Yes, yes, yes. But even like you were just going on about your school, like my biggest issue has been for the last 10 years, the industrialized curriculum of educating a human being to become a good cog in a good industry in order to make a good living. It does not exist. And this is no poo-poo on you, Jake. I don't want you to lose your job, but at the same fucking sentence here, man, it's kind of like, well, aren't you as a teacher in a public school system just doing the devil's work as well? No, you're not, because you're the art teacher, and it goes back to the whole thing being cool and being
I'm the
able
fun
to use
guy.
cool words and stuff like that.
I
Yeah,
am
well,
the
it's
fun
not only the fun guy, but you're the only teacher in category. I'm not saying all teachers outside of not being the art teacher, the music teacher, or somebody that really like creates that mechanism in individuals as they're developing into their teens. I mean, you're even in a sweet spot because you're a middle school teacher, art teacher.
Middle school is
So,
between child and adult. It's a crazy time.
and it's all developmental. So you take the whole, like, they have real anxiety about the world because it's getting played in front of them like a really, really crappy 80s television movie, made for television every day, all day long. My wife will get to a point where I'm only allowed to watch like YouTube news for about 5-10 minutes because it's so obscene what's going on in so many levels for her. And I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing at the devastation of people in the world. I'm laughing. It's like, dude, I couldn't come up with this in a million years. And how is it going to play out? Legitimately, how the hell is it going to play out? So,
well, I have a theory. I have a theory how it's going to play out, and people can see this mapped out in fine detail on our Doom Mag Substack. And Kurt, I would like you to play reporter for a second. Right? Put your reporter hat on for a second, Scoop Jackson, and ask me a question about like how we get from the 2020s to the 2030s and 80s, right? And I'm starting to like fill in this timeline. It's interesting to just take a period, a time period, right? Because you can play around with your characters and you can have them born and die, and that's great because the birth of these characters are all going to be on the Tuesdays, right? Which is going to feed into the mythology and feed into the the mysticism of it, but it's all science. It's all science based, and the fact that it's all happening on Tuesdays is because people are making it happen on the Tuesdays because it's a Tuesday, and then it becomes a thing where it transcends religion, really. Like people committed to the Tuesday movement, and then the fact that in the 2100s, Elevena is going to convince the Tuesday cults all to merge with her resistance, society. So, and then that era is going to fall when Elevena surrenders and ends up in a prison for 20-something years. And that's when young Turbo will meet her. And that's going to be exciting because that's in the actual comic. But we're not up to that yet. That's going to be in issue number 3. We're going to just start to meet Elevena. We mention her at the end of issue 2. Matter of fact, I was just on this page, and how rude of us, Kurt, not to explain where we are on the pages. But when last we met, I had this darkened up using a filter, but I can't switch over to it real quick. This is the panel where Sister Ray is handing Turbo a little tube, a metal tube full of radioactive peas. And then she's here in this panel getting ready all of the rods, the curtain rods that have the mother load of radioactive peas in combinations. Then here we see the warrior nuns, and no, not warrior nun Areola, whatever. This is warrior nun, in the orphanage. These are the sisters of mercy who ran a brothel in order to fund the orphanage for decades. Actually, I have to ask what date to put in that the orphanage started. Was Sister Ray the first to create it, or did she inherit it? I need to know that on this panel, because she's going to destroy it right now. Here we see the warrior nuns are taking fire, and Turbo's here in silhouette kicking out the door. And here we're going to see Sister Ray is going to start to get into a crazy rant, because she's about to blow the whole thing sky high, including herself and this whole orphanage that they built with the spires that move and the turrets and everything, because they're just overrun and they know it, and they don't want the kids. So the kids are escaping. We don't even see them. They're escaping in a flume tunnel, and they're just buying time right now to allow them to escape because nobody knows that. And Turbo has this mission that she's on. She's going to be she's going to be giving the package to Elevena in prison. So that connects to this whole, thing that we've been talking about, where we're seeing like the politics of nowadays getting worse and worse. The industries become merging with the military, and once they have superior military might and security forces to the U.S. government, the U.S. government will fall, and we have that number at 2222. So that's Tuesday, February 22nd, 2222. All twos and nothing but twos. And the Tuesdays in all of this centuries that we're spanning are going to be very important. So I have Shankara being born in 2202, so all of these Tuesdays, that the dates that have a 2 in them are going to be very important, and it also helps me design kind of like the timeline around these little moments in time. But U.S. government's going to fall. They're not going to go away, but they are just going to be kind of like a force, like CIA, FBI, whatever's left. They're just going to be U.S. Gov, and they'll still have their divisions, and they'll still have thousands of people, that are still continuing on. I mean, think about it. How many bunkers does the U.S. government own? How much property, that some game warden in, Montana or Nebraska is just watching over? And those could become strongholds for U.S. Gov. U.S. Gov will have defense. It'll still have, but they will not be in charge anymore because 17 states are going to secede to and then it's just going to grow more and more until there's no more governments, which means there's no more states. I mean, there'll still be states to the extent that they enforce it. But I want Kurt to ask me a question, and it doesn't even have to be today. But I want Kurt to ask me a question that bridges, the thinking in our mind. Forget about the Substack. We're not monetizing anyway right now. I'm not even thinking about that right now. But just to get the best ideas down for how this turbo world builds out, I want you to ask me a question about something that I haven't thought of yet, right? Now, and that could be anything from.
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah. So literally,
challenge me.
Okay. Here's the challenge. So you keep going on about the fall of the United States government, and at some point it disappears in the structure of uniting 51 states. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Now, this might be no, I'm just going to keep going. Not going to apologize for anything. So why isn't there a group of individuals that still hold on to the United States government?
I just said that. Yeah. I just said that. Yeah, they are.
What?
They are. Yes, they are. Absolutely. Yeah.
But who are they? I don't have a.
Well, think about what would happen if this really happened. Everybody that's in an agency right now would get together with the folks in that agency to try to keep that agency going, especially if they have some kind of money stream.
Yeah, but they need government. They need government funding.
Well, it all falls. It all falls to security, right? Because if you're going to try to enforce, if they're going to try to enforce a law, even in the states that didn't secede, if they're going to try to enforce a law, they need to have the manpower or firepower to be able to do that. Otherwise,
no. Okay, back up.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at it from more of a judicial system, not a military system.
Oh, right. Good
These
point. Yeah.
the so-called, you know what I mean? Like, here's an idea for you, okay? The wizards of the Fed.
Right.
So the wizards of the Fed, or the enchanters of the Fed, are that, the beauty of post-apocalyptic is really contextual to flipping scripts upside down. So this thing that we always seem to have as a solid becomes a soft, and then the soft things start becoming solid in what delivers us from evil, and so on and so forth. Like, Mad Max. Let's bring it back to Mad Max. The beauty of Mad Max's character, number one, is he's a cop.
Right, but he was supposed to be an ambulance driver.
To the end.
In the beginning.
To the end, he will always be a cop. He just has this core sting in his belly of having lost his wife and child.
Well, I gotta re-see the first Mad Max, because it has been 20 years since I saw it.
Oh, come on, Jake. So, we've got to put that on the list.
We should have a watch.
And I think we should even even structure something where we really look at that, because functionally it is it's like Conan the Barbarian as a movie. Everybody pulls it apart. It's not Robert E. Howard.
The Conan movie. I saw Dino De Laurentiis Conan movie with Arnold. I saw it, much sooner than 20 years ago. I probably haven't seen that one for like 7-10 years.
Yeah, but my whole point is this. My whole point is this: is that, as much as we pick on, and when I say we, it's the broader creatives out there in whatever lane that they're in. They're making comic books or movies or animation or music or something to that extent. It's easy to pick on the United States government. But if it's no longer there, I believe there would very much be people who, let's say, patriots. The idea that fundamentally there's still a poetic justice that we served ourselves in revolting against the English government. So when we now become the English government to ourselves, and then it falls through its own sense of like nepotism and trying to make good on investors, these types of things, there's still going to be a fundamental group of individuals. It might only be 100 people living in a compound somewhere out in Oklahoma that want to not see the federal government restore itself. They just want that patriotic revolution to come forward, and they're kind of playing like those revolutionary reenactors.
So but the revolution is not from the people; it is from the de Huberton family. So
they're not the revolution. They're the fly in the ointment. They're the ones that actually.
They're the
ones that.
They're the overture.
Yeah, well, they.
Right, and that's why
they take over.
And that's an interesting piece, because I'm just thinking about this now. I'm going to have the government is going to have still popular support from people that need them, and that they can still have some kind of transaction with, and so instead of paying taxes to the federal government, it'll all just be by donation, and we can have that happen.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And another thing that'll happen is, you mentioned the judiciary. You really got me thinking. So those are going to be 9 clowns in robes that are just trying not to get dragged in the street, because.
Well, no. Hold on. When you say judiciary, we got 3 processes in this government that never allows one of them to take over. So even at the, because you have the Supreme Court, you have, the House, the president, so on and so forth. You have this structure that's set up as checks and balances. If that all actually collapses, all I'm saying is there's going to be people patriotically that are going to hold on to the ideals and then reform and restructure themselves in a compound somewhere with, they rewrite the not rewrite they rescribe the Constitution, everywhere and anywhere that they go to. It's just the like I said, it's the flipping that I'm interested in right now, and I am pushing it back on you in not, like I said, it doesn't have to be immediately solved, because that's how you asked it of me, but it does seem to be like it's also one-sided when everybody's being picked on. When you just critically break down and point your finger at every functioning thing that holds our society together, that's fine. It can all collapse. But all I'm saying is that there's constantly going to be fragments, and you deal with that, in the superstructure of Turbo's world.
It goes way down after the megapocalypse, and that's when Turbo is just 10. That's when page 1 of Turbo 1 starts. It's right then at the megapocalypse. So they're going door to door. For a couple of reasons. They want to find enhancement candidates, and they also want to find people with dehubertin blood or genes, right? So so that's the time period where the comic starts. But I'm talking about way before. We have like a 200-year span going back. So the judiciary, I think, they're only going to be as powerful as their bailiff. And what weapons does he have to ward off a drone attack? Otherwise, the judiciary just literally falls, And so, the question is, what can those 9 clowns in those robes, in the Supreme Court, barter for their safety and security? Can they go to another country? Well, guess how many go over to the dehubertins? to give them the imprimatur of, they defected to us because our justice is better in some way, right? So that's going to be crazy.
It's working. It's proven, though. You know what I mean? Like the if there's a fault in our post-apocalyptic story, is the fall of the United States government is only based on it selling itself out to a dehubertin incorporated family that is married. It's done like a royal family type of thing, and it's just, it'd be like in England if the royals were like, you know what, fuck you people, you need us, and we're going to prove it, and they start taking their money and diversifying in mercenary groups and just all these kinds of and then they start paying off. Just to inject a really great TV show that's ending for Wendy and I were watching is Elementary, with Johnny Lee Miller, who was best known for being the side character to Ewan McGregor in both Train Spottings, but Lucy Liu is in it, and they're detectives because he's Sherlock Holmes in nowadays, which was like 2005 or 6 to 2008 or something like that. But dude, they write some like crazy ass shit in the way of right now it's closing off on this guy named Odin Reinbach, who is basically a Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos kind of character, who's using the ability his search engine has to sift through what you're sending and searching for and stuff like that, and then he is able to eliminate you. And he's actually involved. He's influenced all the major governments in a power play and everything. So tonight's episode is second to the last of the whole shebang. But it has to walk a tight line in even the fantasy part of it. And I think we're doing a really, really good job. I just think how it feeds Turbo and Trophy Girls motivations and mismotivations.
They're children of the wasteland. they're much more survivalist. They're children of the wasteland, and a lot of
maneuvers.
yeah, the
Maneuvers.
population's way down, and a lot of things fell apart. There's still going to be a prison complex being maintained, with an uneasy truce where the Hubritons are part of it, but also, it goes back to everybody who's been incarcerated, which includes the sentients. The sentients are incarcerated in a kind of like a much nicer dome, but they can never leave, and they could never survive on their own anyway. But so that's going to be part of it. Kurt, I need to jump in with a segment here. I saw this movie, and the good news is anybody can see this movie for free right now on archive.org. And right now is the time of year where people make donations to charities, because it's like the end of the calendar year. And don't worry, folks, don't worry, folks, we're not doing that. But I gave like $10 to archive.org just out of guilt and shame, and because I use the Wayback Machine a lot. But when I made that donation, they gave me this cool link, and it brings you to categories that remind us about what Kurt was just saying about information overload, because I got information overload. There were so many characters, and I want to mention right now, we'll get this out to our listeners on the Substack, but there are all these like hidden folders that I never knew about anyway, and there's comics, there's movies, there's a lot of previews, not the full movie, but there's so much there I couldn't even go through half of it. And there's science fiction that was read aloud from the pulps onto audio files, and there's a library of those. And Voyage. So this movie, I saw Voyage to the Planet of the Prehistoric Women. This is something different. This is like a remake. This is a movie so god awful that it should be on Mystery Science Theater. I believe it's a great candidate for Mystery Science Theater. But I watched the whole thing. Some of it was in the background, just shaking my head the whole time. Kurt knows what I'm talking about. Like, how did this get made? And what am I witnessing? Like, where was the quality control? Where was anything, professional? So, they have flying reptiles in the sky, saucers that can hover on the land and go underwater. But the special effect budget was 0.00. So, and I think a lot of people know what I'm talking about. Like, things flying in the sky with strings, right? So, love it. So, go watch that. It's right on archive.org, and I will be giving the direct link, if you can't find it, to on the Doom Mag's Twitter feed, and eventually we'll get all these categories on the Substack, because there's comics there, Kurt. Comics. There's page after page after page after page of comics, and
every day.
Well, yeah, they've been there forever. They're just archived on archive.org. And, some of these movies and videos and audios, when I went to audio performances, it was kind of annoying because the Deadheads have uploaded you have to scroll like 85 pages to get past, the Phil Lesh and Friends and all these Dead concerts for decades and decades and decades. But when you get past it, and there's all kinds of little, bands, everything local, and then you could be digging through there and find all kinds of lost stuff. But there's a lot of digging involved, So I'm looking at the tab, and if folks are listening to my audio right now, it's as simple as this: for tons and tons of free comics. archive.org/details/comics. And I'm looking at page after page. There's 97,000 results And I don't even think I put a search in. I'm looking at Dennis Kitchen, Weird Trips, Leonard the Genie, manga compilation. So much stuff is in Japanese, I can't even read it. Godzilla's here, Teen Titans. I see. Here's all right. Here's an indie thing. I gotta break away here and do this. We gotta break format because I'm like, what is this? See, do you see what I'm seeing here? So this is so cool, and
I see your
I just
keyboard.
right. I just clicked. Oh, you see the keyboard? Sorry. Okay. How about now?
I see Titans.
Okay, great. I'm gonna try to make this bigger. This is just an example. It's this page turning app thing, and they're showing free comics here. This looks like an export or a foreign press, and they're just like compiling Champions comics with George Tuska. Let me get to the back. Right, just free here on archive.org, and this is just one little box on one little page, and there's 90,000 things here. So there's so much stuff out there to mine and to find.
Well, there's your collapse of capitalism.
Right. Well,
it's nice to inform people, but it also feels a little like ooh, should you be like, it's like also too, like, how many people out there just don't understand how the internet was designed and why it's there, and that the belief system, and I remember this back from the day, is this goes back to the Napster conversation.
Yeah,
is everything should be free.
The legal
everything should be
Napster.
free.
Well, to the extent that somebody has granted it to them. If somebody uploads it, they're saying, "Hey, I have the rights to this," or maybe I don't, and we're going to see.
We're talking about information. I'm talking about information. That's the thing, and it's hard to, separate, how things are delineated between, having it there to inform people and having it there to entertain people. Because I see that a lot of YouTube videos where they run this thing in the beginning where it says, "Don't take my video down because the reason I'm using all of this copyrighted material is for educational purpose," and it's supposed to work. Some videos I've seen are like 4 or 5 years old, and they're working on that.
That's the idea behind libraries, and we have local libraries, and anybody can go get a book. Anybody could go walk in, get a book for free. That's for sale in the store, and you can borrow it for a couple of days, take it home, reasonable amount of time. And same thing with every magazine, every CD, every record, every thing that a local librarian is willing to buy, and they answer to boards a lot of the time, right?
Right.
So this is all legal. Now, if somebody, so now what about the internet? Because there's no jurisdiction. So archive.org is a very serious archive. I get a good feeling about them that they're a benevolent nonprofit, like Wikipedia. But I'm sure there's stuff that they're taking down every day and putting up and taking down, right? I mean, I'm looking at EC shock.
They don't do it. Other people upload it. They have no uploading themselves. That's all based on other people uploading either their properties or other people's properties. And that's one of the reasons I'm on there, is I am curious about people. Like, I found a comic that I'm going to be reprinting in the Crom anthology in a serial type of thing, because I think it's like, I can't remember, maybe 7 issues long, that was made in '85, and it's sort of sorcery based. Was just completely bowled over by it, and
right. So what we're saying is when you look at these kind of archives and you wonder how is this legal, right? I'm looking at right now Richard Corbin, Complete Den, Children of Fire. Then
It's
they have
not. It's not. It's not legal. That's the
right.
problem. That's
So
probably
somebody has
some of the
to.
money that's some of the money is going to legally keep them from being sued by Corbyn's estate or somebody who's just
It's the
not
same thing as a
the publisher
library.
that they originally did. Yeah,
It's
but it's like this is the whole thing is once you put something up online, no matter what form it is, the majority of us as human beings, no matter who you are, the CEO of a major corporation down to some kid in a library who's looking for something and comes across something else online and it's there accessible, downloads it. You know what I mean?
right.
Or has access to it. It's a very tough thing to compete against. And
I
it
also
also
used to work.
is
Yeah.
well, I'm just going to say it's also what is crushing independent art making. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have the protection of a large label or publisher or Disney or Warner Brothers or whatever that's going to come after it. And you also have to think there's going to be a time and period where these larger Disneys and Warner Brothers and thing are going to find finagling ways to take ownership of it, and then Bob's your uncle.
Well, a couple things. Number one, Disney, is going public domain little by little right now because we just got to Steamboat Willie last year, and I've
Yeah,
seen
but
people.
that's
I've seen people, playing around with it, and most of them are like, hey, did you know this is legal? Like
Jake.
informing people about copyright.
Yeah, Jake.
Look,
There's
look,
two types of creative people out there. There's creative people like ourselves who are actually trying to make something to engage and entertain. Then there's the people who are out there who are just trying to make a dime on something. So they're trying to make a dime on the trending thing, the thing that is. And they're trying to appropriate it in a way that then they can attach something to it that is monetized, and they'll cash in on it. And that's really our competitor are these individuals, or these companies too. They're just groups of people who are doing it. So I don't want you thinking, and I know when I say you, I'm not saying you.
Yeah, there's a major. There's a major
we have
trade-off.
We have to maintain a difference between somebody who is honestly committed to making stuff and needs material to make off of that stuff, to leap off of that stuff, the backs of these giants that we stand on, and then or just being somebody who's trying to appropriate, something and go from there.
Yeah, well, I had to decide when our record came out, our first record, that do we want it on YouTube? It ended up on YouTube, and I'm like, who the hell posted it on YouTube? And it turns out Spotify posted it on YouTube. So all of these companies, it is Bob your uncle like that. But I have to, say, like, I'm the littlest creator of all. We're just a garage band. We've been around for a long time. We play gigs, but we have these records out, and that's it. And these guys are posting this music. Anybody could get it on Spotify for free. I don't even know how that happens because we got on Apple Music, so people can listen to a sample and then download it. But my drummer, now keyboard player, just did all the paperwork, lost all the passwords. There's no record, and I lost all control. So we could. I mean, Kurt has an associate who is might be able to shed some information on this, and we're going to try to have them on soon. But my understanding is that a company like archive.org or YouTube or anybody could get a request filled in the appropriate form to say take this down, and then make a claim, and If archive.org is truly an educational nonprofit, which I would say it truly is, and I would back them up on that. I donate to them. It's because I use their web service. I mean, they have the most complete archive of the internet that's publicly available, the Wayback Machine. So, um, if I just found out, wow, they have this great reserve of stuff like a library, and it goes back decades and it goes back through history. Everybody whose wares are on there has to decide for themselves. Oh, my stuff is on archive.org. Somebody posted it. Do I want to tell them to take it down or not? And there is a real give and take in there, because there's people like Zontar, that could get discovered and become a cult thing, or you could have Russians that are just printing it, to sell in digest form, monetizing all over the world, in like dollar stores or whatever, and just completely exploiting it. That's the interesting thing. And when we talk to people like Jan Stranad, we should find out, like, what does it feel like if you have some real property out there, not the stuff he did for hire, but the stuff that he created, creator-owned stuff, that he did with Corbin. And I don't even know if he gets a split from the Sword of the Atom. Who knows? But sometimes those are very personal questions. All I know is
he doesn't, though. He doesn't get the way I interpreted his interview. The answers to our questions, Jake, was he's now living off of Social Security, some fat change he made off of writing scripts for Dora the Explorer, and a couple of other things. And
right,
he also states, if you want to do this as a career, then you got to marry somebody who has a steady goddamn job. What I mean? Like that's the whole thing. And there is a I think there's a grand delusion out there where if you create something, you own it, and that's really what I'm speaking to. I'm not trying to say anything other than you don't own it because you can't afford to defend it. If Disney came in and said, hey, we got this new cartoon state, and it's got this great, and they generate all the Von Gould material in order to generate something, you have no chance in hell individually. You would have to band together, go and find people who were willing to pro bono and go up against, and you would have to get all this documentation and facts about this and that, but you've lost all the passwords to this, that, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to the extent of why somebody would want to be a creative, but the answer is always simple. I have to do this. I have tried to run away from this comic book thing multiple times, and I just have given in and surrendered altogether. But it doesn't mean I live in a perfectly formed and just happy-go-lucky life because I'm doing my life's passion. There's a whole business process going on out there, and it goes back to even to the start, Jake, that our false start video that we had before this, is that there's so much anxiety I think all of us are having in how all of this is going to come together, and I can make some type of revenue. Making a living is out of the picture, in my opinion. It's revenue streams, because that is partially how I make my living, is by the multiple websites I have that drive revenue. I call them vending machines. And if you don't have a website, as an artist, in any level, making music or anything like that, you're shit out of luck, because this shit's going to change next year. Big time. And to be honest with you, if it doesn't this time next year, I'm probably going to start doing a deeper side hustle on something else, just to be able to keep making my crazy kooky comic books with you and on my own and other people and stuff.
Yeah.
To pack the retirement fund, because then there is something going on in this big big corporatized internet, AI, weak ass processors going on and stuff. But you know what, Jake? We're coming around an hour. We don't have to jump off immediately. But a thought came into my mind is we should be a therapy station. And the only reason I kind of giggle is because, once again, that's a crazy idea. Not stupid, but it's just crazy because neither one of us really have anything to do with health, mental health. And if you are experiencing something, being anxious about what is and isn't going on in the world for you, I do suggest this. Get a pad of paper, no matter how cheap. Get some pencils and pens, no matter how cheap, color or black, doesn't matter, and start journaling. Start putting this stuff out, because in all sincerity, it's all what Jake's doing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, right? And, sometimes it's a real fight to just try to get free time to do it. And then sometimes like, you get a minute and it's like, oh God, like I'm decompressing from a week of school. I don't have any ideas right this second, and then, you start digging into, some great comics, and some great artwork, and, then you get the juices going. But, yeah, I'm going to be posting right now on Twitter, Dumeg's Twitter, the link to that movie and to a free Richard Corbin Children of Fire PDFs. There's 3 PDFs here, just like a whole bunch of just archived stuff, and it looks like it's publicly posted. So expect a lot more about this. Like I don't even know why I didn't know about all this, but
you weren't looking.
I don't know what, when I sent the donation, they sent me this link like, hey, check out all these folders. So it was well worth donating to archive.org. And I don't know, do you go there a lot? Because it's really
every
important.
Day.
Yeah, it's really important to go to the Wayback Machine and see what used to be.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. What what? So
and it goes with something. Yeah, getting inspired, and I think that's always I'm always inspired by that stuff that came before. The major reason I go there is for pulp magazines. So pretty much every single pulp magazine that was ever manufactured from 1919 or 1909 to, I mean, they don't have a huge selection of Argosy, but they have the Weird Tales and the Fantastic Adventures and Planet Stories, and so
they have somebody reading them to you if you're just folding laundry or exercising. They have somebody who sits there and reads the stories, and they're audio file after audio file after audio file. Kurt, before we run out of time, so I just linked that. Yeah, go check out the Dumeg's Twitter if you want to get that quick link, and I'll also follow up with the link to that movie. But if you start digging around in those subfolders, you can see what we're talking about. Kurt, I made some art. I got to show you before time runs out. So you saw this. Here is. And also Alex sent me an IM the other day that I finally found, because I had trouble finding my IMs on Twitter, but on Instagram. Whoops! But there was a free sneak peek into my boudoir here. He said, I don't know if I'm supposed to be airing this or not, but he said, hey, I'm busy finishing something up right now, but how about if I take a crack at the 6-pager that we have scripted? And I think he was talking about the pitch blend story that we have laying in wait. But when he said that, I sat down and I scripted out 2 pages so far of the next 6-pager, which is going to be Weelu and Reem Paw. Here is a sketch I made of Esoterra, and she's going to be like in front of this like mystical portal thing. It's not like Doctor Strange though. It's not a portal to another place. It's just energy stuff, and she's going to be commanding energy, metaphysical / physical energy by converting it to quanta and then being able to manipulate it. And she can do it naturally and inherently, but she wants to figure out how she does it. So she bioengineers a very smart daughter to figure it out, and so that everybody can be enhanced. And that's Elamina. And Elamina is enhanced, and all of her super squadron females are enhanced. Correct. This is going to be a sketch. And if this is an inviting looking female, that's because she is a pleasure bot. And this is going to be the advance of the pleasure bots. And I've started to really, really kind of flesh out that section. And it's going to be sick because, there's going to be multiple threads, and there's going to be a character like a Bob Guccione character who's going to be a really, really sadistic bad guy. And he's going to be the biggest salesman of pleasure bots in the world. And so we're gonna follow him as he forces all of the other pleasure bot companies to consolidate into his. And so, and then finally, when the remaining ones are left, he marries the daughter of board holders, shareholders, whatever, so that they become, in his family and lineage. And seeing this happen, there's going to be an incredible character called Shankra Vaisha, and she is going to take it upon herself to infiltrate the De Huberton Empire by becoming the third wife of Eugenio De Huberton, who's going to be the proprietor of the sex robot industry. And I have a sketch of Vaisha's, I think it's in this tab. So some really cool stuff is coming on the Substack. First, we're going to be posting part 2 of the Jan Stranad interview, written interview, which is amazing and awesome.
That went up. The second one's up already. It went up at 11:22. If you notice here at the bottom, do mags.
Run, don't walk. If you're listening to us, turn us off right now and go read the Jan Stranad.
You can watch the video. You can watch the Comics That Influence video where Jake and I really Q&A to death each other and ultimately Jan. And then I used the nifty transcription from Riverside that we do the podcast. So the audio was then transcribed to words and then turned it into a PDF, dropped it into ChatGPT and extracted all the questions, formulated those questions, ran them through Jake. He reformatted them, and then I sent them to Jan Strad, and he took a couple days. And like I said, like you said, really did us a solid by giving us some just fantastic answers and stuff.
Well, I hope it helps.
We got to do it again.
Yeah, I hope it helps him too, because it was really fascinating and made me a much bigger fan. So Kurt, just so we can get this in the transcript too, because everything our voices are saying right now could be easily converted to text now using AI tool. Here's a Chromita bust. She's going to be
Nice.
She's the next 6-page. Oh no, this is the 2-pager. So if folks want to see some a cool preview, this is Alex Turbin's Funk Anthology, and this is going to be the top of page 1 right here. I presume I'm giving this to Kurt at some point to ink, right? And I'm just finishing right now. Chromita, kind of like an introduction. Some cool panels here where she is rescuing abducted girls that are abducted because they're candidates for enhancement. And I'm just gonna have some fun right now finishing up these four faces on the bottom. But I penciled out in blue line pencil both pages, and we're going to be contributing these pages as a duo, me and Kurt, the to the funk anthology that's coming out. I don't know if we're going to make the first issue, but probably, probably the second. If this is actually coming out monthly, then folks should know that you can submit. If you're a comic creator, you can submit 2 pages at a time. See if we can get in print. So that is a storyline where Chromita is going to be gifted, and this is how we're tying in all the threads. Chromita is going to be gifted to Esoterra by an unseen hand. Chromita is going to be a Shebot that builds yourself. And right here you can see these little particles of little bits and pieces of building material are all like moving in a line like ants, and Chromita is being built. When she's built, she's going to be a very, very advanced robot that everybody wants to capture so they can...
Well, I just want to say this.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about this 2-pager that we'll be working on, and yes, putting it towards a fantastic group of people over on Instagram that Alex Turbin is a part of, but more importantly, as the wizard behind the curtain, marketing wise, you're falling prey to what exactly I want to happen from here going forward. All of the stuff that Jake generates in talk, believe it or not, is in writing, and that writing's being translated and posted with doodles, not drawings or finished art. These are just doodles to help kind of feed you along the way when you're reviewing this. But the material is all that makes Turbo's world magnetically charged. But it's so delicious, it needs to have its own little vignettes, and Jake is making them into these vignettes. I already have issue 1 under control. I am on page 13 to 18, getting the gray values down on them. So we are next year, who knows how soon, we will have our next teaser and what format it comes into. But it's definitely going to look like something anthology, a small issue. Could be printed by Alex Turbin, who does print indie comics and everything. But man, we're coming to the end of 2024, and I am so excited. As much as I am exhausted right now, I'm tired, frustrated, overloaded. We are heading towards some great shit next year. And the big thing too, and this will be the last thing, I'll let you close this out, is we're going to be at IC3 in March 15th of next year, which is in Connecticut State College place. Just look up IC3 Comic Con and find the website and get your tickets now, and also get some rooms, because this is going to be from here on out the event. We are on the ground floor of an event, 2nd year running, that is just going to be absolutely stellar. But that's all I got, Jake. Let's let these people get back to reading comics, making them if they should. What do you have as close out?
So yeah, thanks, Kurt. I know we're a little hyper talking over each other. Sorry about that. I had too much red. What I want to say in closing is connect. If you're a comic creator, connect with other creators. we're an example
Yes.
of somebody that's out here, and we made a lot of progress in the last year actually connecting for collabs, which are undergoing as to the limit of free time that we have to do it. And and the same goes for people like Alex Turbin, who we're working with a little, and anybody in the future. If you're a writer, we would love for you to take a little slice of this world. Jen Schned said, we asked him a question. It was in the first installment. We asked him a question. When you're working on a property that's not yours, like Star Wars, where do you work from? How much research do you have to do? And he said that a lot of these companies will give you a Bible, what they call. And this was like, okay, everything in here is like, you can't stray from it. Otherwise, if you stray from it, it's not really your fault, and that's the process. So we can be doing the same thing, and our Bible is Turbo Pit Fighter #1 in production, and everything in the Doom Mags Substack. And if anybody wants to collab, this is a way where you can insinuate yourself into an anthology. Alex Turbin is always taking submissions, and we're also going to be doing a Turbo World only anthology as we release our next trailer, our next teaser. So I think Kurt and I have our understanding on that. We're just finishing up he's just finishing up the inked pages. So that's coming out in the next year, very soon in the next year. And if you want to collab, even if you don't do comics, but if you're good at running an app or something and you want to contribute to this, we're trying to build a network of like-minded independent creators. Most of us admittedly are not in it for the money. But we also don't lose money, Kurt and I, we both have track records, and, it isn't going to pay your rent, but it's not going to lose you money. And, and everything you do is just another notch in your belt, so that you could try to have maybe a steady stream, of income, even if it's not a lot, it adds up, or just, better and better professional examples so that you can make that deal, on the sidelines of a con, and you could, and collaborate with really good people. So that's all we're looking for. And, we love sci-fi. If you like sci-fi, if you write, if you draw, if you ink, if you color, if you letter, whatever, feel free to hit us up, or your local, or go find your local other people and do the same thing we're doing, and make a collab. You could podcast it. This idea is open for anybody to do it. I just don't know why we're the only ones doing it, but
we're crazy.
But we got Alex involved, and we got
Yep.
we've all of our guests involved. We just got to tell them, pick up a pencil and put the camera down instead of at your face. Right. So that's all. Yeah. So check us out, Substack. It's Doom Mags on Substack, and if you want to go digging on archive.org, check out the Doom Mags Twitter. And that's all I got. Be cool, everybody. See you next weekend. See you in the funny papers. And that's it, man. Have a great December.
Yeah, I'll see you next Sunday.
All right, Kurt and I'll be there later. Later, Gator.